What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with NIO, Tesla, SPY, and a couple of other tickers. I want to break down what's going on with the overall market going into tomorrow as we have important data coming out. Not to mention a very, very big test coming into the markets. But before I break down devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you guarantee 20 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon in just about 4 days from now. Anyways, for NIO, we got a nice accumulation structure right over here, and we have this imbalance to fill, which does give us more upside momentum, as NIO is forming a very, very nice cup, and there is a bit more upside potential. But the question is, what's going to affect this? I want to talk about those big factors in the data coming out for tomorrow before I break this down. Just know that the reason why NIO is up 5%, or at least one of the reasons, is because their Chinese data was looking decent. We got some good expectations from many big banks who are saying that NIO is going to meet expectations for their Q2 deliveries reports. And then also, NIO stock got a 5% boost from Rivian and Volkswagen because VW is saying they want to invest billions of dollars into Rivian, which is going to not only help the company as it's, although for like the short term, it's not in the best of places because they're still burning cash. It's going to be a lot more beneficial, at least for the long term of Rivian, and it's going to be very, very beneficial for the company as a whole. I think that Rivian has a lot of upside potential for the long term. Short term things are very difficult. That's very common for these EV startups. But with VW forming a nice deal, this could lead to a big squeeze in Rivian, a lot more growth and improvement in the fundamentals. And we're seeing the EV market as a whole kind of pushing things to this. So that's part of why NIO ended up pushing, not to mention their Chinese sales are not looking too bad. There's also some data coming out for tomorrow. Just know that tomorrow is going to be Thursday, June 27th. 1 hour before the market opens. We have initial jobless claims coming out. We have the GDP price index quarter over quarter and the GDP growth rate quarter over quarter. This is also going to be very important to understand the strength of our economy. So this might affect the market to some extent. Then we have wholesale inventories and even more pieces of data. So overall, quite a bit of data is coming out an hour before market open. Then we have the 4-week and 8-week bill auctions coming out at 11:30 a.m. But 1 hour before market open, look for some volatility. Now, for earnings, going into tomorrow, we just have a few, such as like McCormick and very, very minor ones, at least in the morning. And then after the market closes, we have Nike. So I can't wait to see what that causes. As far as the Fed goes, the Federal Reserve is coming out today. They're saying that all 31 banks in the annual stress test withstood a severe hypothetical turndown. That's part of why the market kind of pumped at the end of the day. Now, looking at this piece of news, it's pretty good, at least so far, but we'll have to see if the GDP numbers are in line with all of this. The market as a whole had a more of a green day. We saw it kind of like 50-50 in terms of green and red, but a lot of big tech still held up. Even Nvidia's a little bit in the green despite dipping a bit. It dipped and then got bought back up. Apple's pushing, which helped the market quite a bit. Amazon too, Tesla especially. And then for NIO gave us the ESG report. I went over this yesterday, which is not bad. It's actually very important for them to kind of like continue to reiterate their fundamentals and what improvements are coming. Volume is going up to 53 million, so it's a good sign for NIO as we're getting very close to deliveries. And finally, we also saw Bank of America Securities give us a neutral rating. The price-risk ratio is still kind of flat as NIO is building some strength. And we tend to see more green about 55% of the time on Wednesdays, and it goes down to about 50% of the time on Thursdays. So it's kind of like a 50-50 day. But hopefully July is a better month because July is historically a strong month for NIO 53% of the time. So let's hope for the best. What do I see for the share price? In my personal opinion, it depends on a lot of the data we get. If I'm going to be 100% honest, it depends on what we get for the GDP numbers and initial jobless claims. But from a technical standpoint, I think NIO is going to retest our 50 EMA and possibly get a big bounce to fill this imbalance and start pushing for 4.76. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case for some potential upside. SPY, on the other hand, is building some strength. They actually closed in the green again. So if we're ready to kind of turn here, it depends on if we could break 547. If we pump tomorrow, I think there's a good chance we might see this in the pre-market or retest of 547. If we break through this, SPY could be pushing up to all-time highs all over again. If we reject off this high right here, if we reject off 547, I'll see us dipping back down to 541. And then if that fails, we can fill the gap all the way down here to 537. So it depends on the big test tomorrow at 547. If we break through that, yes, we could continue higher. It's also going to depend on data, but that's going to be very, very key because the buyers are still defending. As far as Tesla goes, we're on a very, very nice uptrend. Tesla's trying to rip up, and it looks very bullish. I think that Tesla will easily retrace a little bit, retest maybe like the 192s, then try to bounce and start pushing up for the 200s very soon. It's looking bullish, and I see more upside potential off this inverse head and shoulders, especially as we get closer to deliveries going into next week by July 2nd. Now, for Nvidia, we're in a very, very critical place. We dipped quite a bit. We went from basically 140 share all the way back down to about 115 in just a couple of days, only to get bought back up. Now, if Nvidia gets a big bounce tomorrow, we have to try to break 130 to turn bullish. If that breaks, we're pushing all the way up to the mid 130s. If we lose support right here around 123, we'll be dipping all the way down to about 120. In my opinion, there's a good chance that we could see Nvidia try to bounce, and I think there's a lot of potential for that. For Bitcoin is dipping a little bit. I could see this actually dip a little bit lower and retest 60,500. If we bounce off here, we could try to continue. If not, we could dip a little lower. So I do see this dipping a little bit lower before we try to bounce. Look for 60,500, if not lower. So I'll watch to see how that ends up moving. For the QQQ, we have an inverse cup and handle like structure, but there's no sign of us actually officially breaking down. To be bearish, you want to see this thing lose 478. If that fails us, I'll be looking at 475 or 50 EMA. If that breaks, then yes, this is going to start turning more bearish. But if we dip a bit to 478 and get bought back up, and we start getting bought back up again, watch 480 as resistance, then watch 482. That's going to be the high from today. I'll be watching to see if we can try to break that area. If that breaks, then 484 is coming. And if we break that, then we should be pushing to new all-time highs if 484 breaks. So if we bounce tomorrow and 484 breaks, all new all-time highs are coming. If you reject and lose 478, we're going to be dipping down to 475 and then lower levels. As of right now, I'm in the middle with the QQQ. We'll also see if this is becoming like a slanted inverse head and shoulder. So I'm in the middle right now. It's going to depend on data and other factors like that. So we just have to wait and see. What's helping the market is Apple's attempting to bounce right here. If we do come down and establish a higher low at 212 and start bouncing again, then this could start flying back up to new all-time highs. If we end up losing 210, we could be dipping back down to 208. So look for a big test tomorrow on Aapl. For the IWM, we're starting to slow down a little bit. I think we're going to likely shuffle tomorrow. It's going to likely trade sideways in the 200s and then get a big reaction. For AMD, looking a little bit more bearish. We're at this imbalance right here. I could see a dip a little bit lower to about 155, and then we'll see if we get a bounce. But I see a little downside before another big potential move. For Coinbase, we're actually on a bit of a rejection phase right over here. We're kind of dipping right here too. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually kind of rebound to like 216, then kind of come back down lower towards 210. I could see a little bit more downside on Coinbase for an attempt to bounce tomorrow. But I think that, like I said earlier, we might retest 210 and try to bounce. We'll see if that ends up being the case. So watch for that very carefully. Amazon's on a very, very nice looking uptrend. If we continue to break out, I'll be looking at 195 as resistance. If we end up losing support, if we end up breaking down and losing it, I'll be looking at support at 190. My gut tells me this is looking more bullish. It looks like it wants to go up to 195 again, if not higher. So it still favors the upside. So does Meta. Meta's holding up very well, especially at the end of the day. It might retest this high around 515 to 516, so it could go a little higher too. Microsoft looks more bullish. Could be looking for a push for 455. I see that potential in that. Same thing with Google. I think we're going to shuffle at 185, maybe dip a little bit to 183, then bounce. But that's all I'm really seeing. GameStop is just trading sideways. You have to break past 25.68 to turn bullish. Otherwise, we're just stuck. And then AMC is trying to rebound. We have to try to break past 4.7 for to turn bullish. Otherwise, we're just kind of stuck within this range. Anyways, that's pretty much it, at least for the video. I want to thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, and I'll see you guys very soon on the next one for tomorrow. Have a great day, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday evening, and I'll see you guys again. Thank you, and peace out.